As we've said before, Maya has just zillions of different tools and ways you can do things, but most people find that there's a very small number of those tools that they tend to rely on very heavily. And, the translate, rotate, and scale that we've talked about both for whole objects and for components, as we worked on in the last sections, the last chapter, are very important. And most of what we're going to talk about in this chapter are very important tools. And between those translate, rotate, and scale and what we'll deal with here in this chapter, you'll have most of the toolkit that people tend to rely on for building object geometry. So let's get to it. We'll open Maya. Okay, we're going to create our friendly cube here again. Create polygon primitives, cube, drag out a base, give it a height, turn on shaded, wireframe on shaded. Should be getting pretty old hat now. Go to the first tab of attribute editor, set the translation to 0, 3, and 0. Go to the third tab and set the width, height, and depth to 6. And then the subdivisions to 3. Okay, and this is our cube. We can zoom in. And the cube here is, you say, well, I guess we could build something out of this, but, I might need some more geometry. I might want to have some arms and legs sticking out from this. How do I do that? I guess I could use the booleans and kind of glue them on, but that might look kind of clunky and hokey and whatnot. But there's another technique, and that's how we generally do things like that. And that's using extrusions. So we're going to go ahead and do that. It's pretty simple. Just right-click on the object and choose Face. And now we can just choose a face here. But first I'm going to go into the Edit Mesh, Extrude, and actually to the little rectangle, little square to the right of it, and open that up. And so here's Extrude Face Objects. And I just want to set these parameters here, the smoothing angle to about 30. And then just take these offsets here down to 0 for default. Now I'm going to click Apply and select my face. Now click Apply. There we go. Okay, we can close this, and in the future we won't have to go into that cube. But now this is our object tools for extrude. We've got basically the translate handles, we've got scale handles, we've got the circle around it. And the way this works is I'm going to grab this translate handle and just start dragging up. And look what happens. We've created basically another section to the geometry. I can grab another translate handle and move it this way. I can use the scale handles. Now, one thing about the scale handles, if I click on one of these, now the center has changed from the translate to a scale. So now I can scale multiple axes at once. This outer loop here activates the rotate. So now I can rotate that face and do pretty much whatever I want to with it. Now there's one other thing that's kind of important here, and that's this little blue, almost looks like a clock face tool that'll be off to the side of the extrude controls wherever they are. Now when I click on this, watch the extrude tools, the translate and scale and rotate objects here. Boom. Okay. Now they're back where that geometry started, but more importantly, or equally importantly, they're oriented to the world axes, not to the face that we had extruded, which when we rotated it, the axes were pointing sort of in local X, Y, and Z direction. Now we're back to a global X, Y, and Z direction. And you do that by just clicking on that little button that's off the side of the handles. So we can go in now, we can click and bring it back, click again, put it back there, and now we can actually manipulate based on the world axes here, moving it up, moving it this way. We can scale and rotate, bring it back, move it along and scale it along the local axes. So, you might not think it's very much of a big deal, but it turns out to be a very big deal. See, I'm just moving it along that axis. Continue. And now, boom, back to there. And fine. Okay, I think you get the idea of that. I mean, spend all day doing this, but that's that. So that lets you add geometry, and that's pretty much how people will add arms and legs and other extrusions, because that's what they are, into a basic box. And this is a technique called box modeling that's very widely used, especially for non-organic kind of hard solid objects. So that's it. That's our first tool for this chapter, an extremely powerful and often used tool.